In this story lies darkness and mystery, treason and madness. I could no longer tolerate the lies and betrayal that enveloped my life. By a thread of connections and suspicions, I found him, my wife's lover, and decided that enough was enough. I had infiltrated his life. I had tampered with him, and now he no longer existed. I became the enforcer of my fate, spilling bitterness and vengeance into the earth. In this video, you will plunge into the dark depths of the human soul, where passion and hatred merge into one irreconcilable beginning. Get ready for a shocking turn of events, because this is a story that will leave you stunned. I found out not too long ago that my wife was cheating on me. We have been together for 13 years. Daughter by my first wife was 16 years. No one is closer to her and a better friend. My son is 10 years old, on disability. They are daddy's children and always come to me for advice or anything. I am madly in love with my wife, but there is one minus. I am not able to express my feelings towards her. I am not able to take care of her either. We met in '99. After the army, I got a job with the police. At that time, it seemed to me that helping people was my calling, and I began to like my profession, not as a cop, but as a policeman. One summer day in 2000, I saw my love. She worked in a cafe, and my partner, and I went there for coffee in the evening. I forgot about sleep, rest, and so on. Duty and to her. Duty and to her. She is very beautiful, rather spectacular. I do not know how, but pulled her out of the crowd of people like me, lumpy. Got to know my daughter, fell in love, brought her home. My mother accepted. How can a mother not accept her son's choice? The rest of the family was against it, as they still are. My wife and I lived heart to heart, even though we fought a lot. Shit, we still fight about little things and everyday life. Fuck him. I want to cry now. We didn't live well. The salary of a policeman was a pittance. It wasn't great either, but the job of a barman had its perks, if you approach it with a head. And my beloved very smart. We lived off her. Went to the academy by correspondence in another city. She began to study accounting. And it was there, during one of my sessions, that I met another girl. A romance began to develop rapidly. By that time, my son was 2 years old. Man, you would not believe it, but with what happiness I washed diapers, ironed, and so on. In the mornings, I took my daughter to kindergarten, then to school. I never thought it would give me so much joy. But now about my affair. The girl was married. How long could we? Dated in secret. We communicated by text message. Every chance I got, I went out to see her. Then I realized I couldn't hide it anymore. The two of us were getting a divorce. My mother guessed, of course. She even felt it. There was a hard conversation with her. Stayed in the family. My wife could not forgive me for a long time. Years went by. She put up with it. My wife kind of forgave me, or didn't forgive. Put up with it because of the kids. Happened to get in trouble at work one day. Tried to sue me for 6 years. Lost. Then I worked as a loader, salesman, and so on. I came into contact with computers. I liked it and started to study it. All this time, we lived on my wife's earnings. She found a very good job. I buried my mother, cancer. Hands completely empty. I drank away what I earned. Wife endured, and worked. Stayed out of work. Sat at home for more than a year. Then I went to the office where my wife works. I did not work for a year and left. A year ago, quite by chance, even luckily, called from a good company. I am working. Good salary. Good people around. All this time, that I was suffering and survived almost 4 years, my wife was dragging our family on her frail shoulders. She made good connections at work. She worked practically without rest while I was in the pencil box. But I never forbade anything. And I always trusted her with everything. Maybe because she forgave me, I don't know. But I confess, I did not pay enough attention to her. Only after a few months started giving her gifts, though I should have done it earlier. At the suggestion of my wife, we sent our daughter to study abroad. My daughter was against it, but my wife insisted, and I supported it. I took out a student loan. I send money to my daughter. Now it is not a problem at all. Daughter cries. Understandably, another country, no one close by. I calm her down. We often talk. I guide her quietly, supporting her. She understands, she sobs, but she fights herself and learns. A couple of months ago, I became suspicious of my wife. Texting, talking. Even though I know her communication style, they were different. Mother of God, it's hard to write. For a month, I was walking around, not knowing what to do, and the workload distracted me a lot. Somehow I could not stand it. I took it in my smartphone. I don't know how long I sat, staring at the wall. There was a scandal. Too bad the kids saw the whole thing. Then there was a lot of talking, promised everything. Try to forget. At home there are a few computers, a server, and a remote computer for her work. She made me sit at her computer. I took out everything, absolutely everything. From email, Skype, Viber, and so on. Now for me, it is not such a big problem. It turned out that after these promises, they continued to meet. From the correspondence, I found out that they had been dating for over a year. And here is the scandal again. Again a promise. 2 days passed. I couldn't stand it. Started looking for him. Found him. Found out enough information about him. Old connections helped me. To ruin a life, and that's where connections help, I'm sure. Problem is, I know him. He's old enough to be my father. I understand that. Yeah, I know I'm an asshole. For leaving something out that shouldn't have been left out in the first place. His is basically my big mistake. In life, and my fault. Only thing is, he has a lot of them. His status and position allow, and he doesn't like her. I've been sitting here all day today wondering. Going to punch him in the face or talk to him. I don't know what the fuck to call it. I'm torn. On one hand, I want to kill him and her. On the other, I want to hold her in my arms and not let her go anywhere. I'm back on alcohol. It feels like burying a loved one all over again. I can see that my wife loves him and thinks about him. Guys and gals, who's been through this? I'm a total asshole. But I want to forgive. Learn to forgive. What she went through. I don't want to bury in divorce. She did it. She did it. It means she loves. Last night, when we sat in the kitchen at night, she promised me she wouldn't be with him. I could see clearly that she wasn't. I know. I believe that all these years were for a reason. If I didn't love him, I would have left him a long time ago. What should I do? Dear ministers, it seems to me, or rather I believe, that the situation is rather ambiguous. You can't say that the wife here is a bastard, or that only the husband is an asshole. No, it seems to me that both are worth each other. So it's very interesting to hear from you as well. What do you think? Who's to blame? Who's right? Who's wrong? Because on the one hand, I'm in no way excusing my spouse or my wife right now. Their infidelity is not there. Don't think so then. But on the one hand, after all, he did introduce some kind of a shoal lifestyle. Didn't appreciate the woman who was faithful to him and supported him in all his endeavors, in all his problems. And I think the second is much more important. Do you think I'm right? Well, here goes. She can be understood too, and I'll stress it again. I'm not making excuses for cheating. I'm just trying to get to the root cause. And for some reason, I'm pretty sure that it's not about the cheater already, and it's certainly not about the cheating wife. It's about the circumstances that went into this young family here. A family that has gone through so many trials. Not everyone can handle it, even on their own. People get ripe, they give up, but they make it work, and it's hard. It's a tough choice. Let's help the author. Of course, I also want to repeat the point that I make here in almost every video. That in general, it is possible to forgive an affair or not. You see, the strongest betrayal one commits in marriage or in any kind of relationship is to cheat on their loved one. That's what both in today's story did. And this fact should be kept in mind when it comes to answering, but quite seemingly simple, but unbearably difficult at the same time, the question of forgiving cheating on a loved one. And no matter how obvious the answer may seem, because we all know that no, you can't. But almost everyone, at least men, I don't know about women, but men definitely fall into a stupor, and before they can let go of their emotions and make a competent and correct decision, they blame themselves for indecision, for being infantile. Absolutely all men endure their wife's infidelity with the greatest pain in their heart, in their chest, in their head, everywhere. But you will agree that the decision must be made and done. It must be done solely with a cool head, dear author, a cynical calculation and your own benefit, no matter how sad it may sound. After all, you are the one who decides your future life. Here, you should not believe the words of the traitor, the circumstances of your mother, and I understand you like to ask her for advice. And the traitor is certainly not worth believing, because at any opportunity, she will deceive you again. In principle, which you are hers, because you are worth each other, but the decision to make you think about the children in the first place. Dear listeners, I am waiting for your opinions in the comments. I am always happy and carefully read every comment. And now on to the second story. There are boundaries in this world that no one must cross. But what happens when those boundaries break down? What do you do when cheating becomes not only treason, but betrayal? My wife violated all my expectations by betraying me with my lover. I felt anger and pain within me that made me do things I could never have imagined. I met him, my wife's lover, and took responsibility for my happiness with implacable strength. But this story is overshadowed not only by one life, but by the fate of his entire family. In this video, you will learn about the stunning twists and turns of events, the power of revenge, and the consequences that can destroy everything around you. Get ready to meet the darkness of a story that will forever be in your memory. And here we go. Hello everyone. What would you like to start? My wife and I have lived together for 10 years. We have 2 sons, one 6, the other 8. By the way, the first 8 years my wife didn't work. She stayed home at first and later with the kids. She's, you know, so beautiful and smart. All those 8 years, she just blew my mind with her jealousy. I'll tell you right off the bat, it was unwarranted. After all, I think you yourself are well aware. Imagine just sitting at home and all the time something came to mind that supposedly I was cheating. From the very first days of our marriage, she and I both knew there was a tick in our family. We couldn't forgive a cheating soulmate. No way. Not under any circumstances. And she knew that all along. Anyway, here we are 8 years later. We bought an apartment, a small loan, but we didn't have enough money. And somehow logically everything was moving towards the fact that she had to get a job. Got a job, was a nobody at work. By virtue of the island of intelligence and intelligence from nature, she began to move up the career ladder little by little. Everything was going well. We were happy that we were both becoming successful parents. Also that we had a strong marriage and really amazing kids. Not once in the entire marriage did I cheat. Believe it or not, I haven't even kissed a single woman. So tell me, why when you have such a beautiful, beautiful wife at home? And so it's been 1.5 years since she got a job. The last 6 months things started to change. She started a big new project at work. A greenfield manufacturing facility. And then, like on schedule, she started being late home. Then long-distance trips with her supervisor. Later, she started asking a friend to go out for a night out at a restaurant. Or something. I thought, well, you should. Okay, it's hard at work, you have to relax. Then she became cold to me and the children. She motivated nothing around the house by this intense fatigue. I don't know how, but one morning she was leaving with her boss in another city in his car. And somehow there was an unspoken agreement that she had to sit in the back seat in the car with another man. And the time is 4 in the morning. She kissed me asleep and left. And you know, something literally lifted me up. I got up and looked out the window. My wife comes out of the door and almost hops, sits on the front seat. Then something stirred inside me. I didn't want to, but I put a wiretap on her phone 2 whole weeks later. And yes, it all came out. She was talking to a co-worker friend of hers about how she couldn't decide who to stay with. Like, both her husband and her lover, who happened to be her boss, they're both nice. It's nice, isn't it? And stuff like that. So I told her I knew everything. At first she didn't take it seriously because I didn't have any proof. Then I provided the same evidence, but the boss's wife. And they, by the way, have 3 children. We sat with her like that, looked at each other, and agreed that maybe they have love or something else there. There was a fight. At first she acted cocky and pushy. It turned out that they had been in a relationship for 6 months. All that time she lied to me. She looked me in the eye and told me she loved me. She made love to me. With one man and then another. I told her she was a woman of easy virtue. Softly, to put it mildly. She replied at first that no, that wasn't true, because she had feelings for this man. Her boss said she was, literally, cool, that she was just fascinated by this whole new thing. A day went by. She started apologizing. Said she understood everything. Realized that I loved her as much as she loved me so much, that it was a big mistake that she would never make again. Asked for help. For me to reach out to her and not let her go. I'm listening to her, and my world is falling apart around me. I want to forgive her, but I can't. As soon as I look at her, I immediately imagine her with another man. I can't imagine how to live next to her, and I can't imagine without her either. I keep thinking that no, she is lying. I just caught her off guard. I discovered everything. And her lover, as it turns out, after I provided his wife with everything, decided to keep his family and told my beloved about it. So he turned out to be an ashhole and an empty liar. And my wife simply had nowhere else to go. And my lover fucked up. And me. And by the way, I told her I was getting a divorce. I don't want to. My whole nature resists, and I can't forgive cheating. And I cannot believe in the sincerity of her word about the error. And then, Mazium. Later she began to say that intimacy they had only 3 times in 6 months. Yeah, but I don't believe that at all. 3 times in 6 months. With feelings that strong. And what in God's name am I talking about? What difference does it even make? 3 or more? That's what I said. That one would have been enough for me. Now I feel like I need to make the decision to be a man and solve this problem. 2 sons, an abused but very strong love for my wife. But if we stay together, what kind of life would that be? The recriminations, the insults, the distrust. Maybe she's telling me all this on purpose so she can be more conspiratorial about cheating later. What do you think? Maybe someone has had a similar situation. I would be grateful. Dear listeners, thank you and I for watching this video, also for subscribing to the channel and give you likes. Frankly, it is very nice and greatly helps the channel to grow, develop, and gain a new audience. If you are not subscribed, please, you can thank me for my work for you by subscribing and liking.